Your man, Louie T. Welcome to Wildcard Weekend Overtime. Browns, Steelers, AFC North family business. If these two teams say they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, you know how that goes. It's family business, and I cannot tell a lie. Did not see this one going the way that it did, and I think I was in the minority. I think the vast majority of you thought the Browns were going to win this game, and a lot of you told me this, whether it's on the podcast or various other platforms, that you thought the Browns were going to win. I remember my man JP very vividly saying that he thought the Browns were going to run it up on these boys and win by 1 million. He wasn't wrong, and we saw this thing play out in a way that we've seen before. Not necessarily between these two teams in particular, but this felt like the Super Bowl with the Broncos and the Seahawks. You remember the first play of that game for the Broncos on offense is a snap over the head of Peyton Manning. The Seahawks recovered that thing, and it just kind of snowballed after that. The game was never the same. This is kind of how this game went. You get the snap over the head. Not even 20 seconds into the game, the Steelers are down 7-0. Ben throws an interception not too long thereafter. That turns into a touchdown. Ben then throws another interception. That turns into a touchdown. And then it's just like a snowball effect, There were a couple of penalties. Every time they would do something right, there would be a penalty to negate it. There were missed opportunities, guys running wide open and Ben's overshooting them, or they're not on the same page. Ben thinks he's going to sit down. The receiver, Eric Ebron, in this particular case, keeps going, so the ball's behind him and it's incomplete. Just a bunch of missed opportunities, and you look up and the Browns are capitalizing off of every single one of them. And that's the one thing I've got to give the Browns credit for this season, is when they've been in these particular situations, whether it's the Dallas game early in the season, or it's the Tennessee Titans game about a month and a half ago, or it's this game. You make mistakes, and they're not settling for field goals. They're not letting you off the hook with a turnover, giving it right back to you, or they're not missing a field goal or anything of the sort. You make these mistakes early in ball games versus the Cleveland Browns, and they are making you pay. They are scoring touchdowns. And we've seen them build humongous leads this season. They were up 38-10 on the Dallas Cowboys in the fourth quarter of that game before Dallas came roaring back. Might have even been 41-10 before Dallas came roaring back. They were up 38-7 against the Tennessee Titans in Tennessee. And all of these big leads have been on the road. So this is a team that has no problems taking your mistakes and turning them into big-time opportunities for them and stockpiling big play after big play, turnover after turnover into touchdown after touchdown. And they did it in this game. They built a 28-0 lead. And the Steelers were shell-shocked. They had no idea what had just happened. You look up, it's 21-0 in the first quarter. It's 28-0. I think it might even been 28-0 at the end of the first quarter, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, they didn't know what the hell had just happened. And by the time they figured it out, they were down 4 scores. Testament to the Browns. For every mistake, there was a Browns touchdown. And they made them pay. And every time you felt like the Steelers were about to mount that comeback and put the pressure, because there were a couple of times where there was game pressure on the Browns, but never to the point where you felt like they were going to lose the game. Just enough to make you a little uneasy and nervous if you were a Browns fan out there. But every time that feeling came, you stepped up and you either made a play defensively or you made a play offensively, or plays offensively. So you got to give credit to this entire Browns organization. Your coach is out. Both of your offensive line coaches are out. Your starting corner is out. A couple of starting corners are out. Your starting guard is out. And you just go out there and you play ball. No excuses. None of that. You go on the road. You handle some family business like you've been here before. And you put up 48 points on the Pittsburgh Steelers. This vaunted Steelers defense that we've talked about. The offense may be struggling, but at least this defense is going to give them a chance. Bullshit. Defense got gutted. No excuses. No equivocations. Don't want to hear about any injuries. Browns had injuries. Don't want to hear about any people that weren't playing. Browns have people out due to COVID. Don't want to hear any excuses. You had pretty much your full complement of defenders out on the field, minus Joe Hayden and Bud Dupree. Well, their edge rusher was out for the season with a torn Achilles too. So, and their number one corner was out of this game as well. So nobody wants to hear your excuses. Your defense got gutted. Absolutely gutted. And when the offense started showing signs of life and needed you to step up, you gave up plays. The big screen for the touchdown. The Jarvis Landry conversion after conversion after conversion. How many times are you going to leave Robert Spillane pretty much one-on-one against Jarvis Landry in the slot? That's what they want. Take Spillane off the field, and I get it. He's your best coverage linebacker. Take him off the field, replace him with a defensive back. You know what they want to do. They're going to go empty. They're going to send that running back out into motion, and they're going to empty the set, and it's going to be pretty much, even if you're in zone's going to convert to man, and Spillane is pretty much going to be covering Jarvis Landry one-on-one. You already know what it is. How many times are you going to let them beat you with that? You come with the blitz, they hit you with a screen. You decide to play coverage, one-on-one with Jarvis Landry, with Spillane, and he wins. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. So they just had your number. Credit to Alex Van Pelt for the game he called tonight. And credit to the interim head coach, MP. I can't remember his name. I know it's MP. I remember seeing his face mask like 20 times tonight. Pfeiffer or Piper or something like that. He was outstanding. Had a good feel for everything other than the challenge of the Deontay Johnson catch. I thought he had a really good feel for everything tonight. The backs who have done it all season long did it again in this game. Hunt with a couple of rushing touchdowns early. Chubb, man, I keep talking about Chubb and how he's so underrated in this league. People don't give him the credit that he deserves. When we start talking about some of the better backs in the league, we never bring his name up. I shouldn't say we. Okay? Oh, you speak French now. No. I'm not in that category because I try to bring awareness to what he's doing in Cleveland. But when people bring up the best backs, you get Henry, you get Cook, you get McCaffrey, you get Kamara. Rarely, you get Jones, Aaron Jones. Rarely does Nick Chubb's name come up. Rarely does it come up. That's got to stop. It's got to stop. I mean, and I've already said this. I think a lot of times the reason he gets overlooked is he's not a big-time pass receiver out of the backfield. Well, he hurt him out of the backfield catching the football tonight. But when I talk about pure runners, you won't find many better in the game than Nick Chubb. So he was outstanding. I thought that they got big contributions from Landry and Austin Hooper. And I thought Baker Mayfield, one of the biggest plays that will probably go under the radar that people won't talk about was when this score got cut to, I believe at the time it was 35. It might have been 35-16. It might have been 35-19, or it might have been 28-14. I don't know if it was ever 28-14. Let me look at the scoring breakdown. See what this score was. I want to say it was, I think it was 35. No, it was earlier in the game. I don't know what point of the game it was, but it felt like an important moment. And Baker, it's a 3rd and 6. Baker scrambles to his left. There are 2 Steeler defenders there. He lowers his shoulder and barrels through them and gets the first down. And they ultimately go down the field and score on that possession. It felt big in the moment. It's hard to say that any moment was big early because it was 7-0, then it was 14-0, then it was 21-0, and it was 28-0 after one quarter. So it's hard to really feel like it might have been at 20. Yeah, that's what it was. It was 28-7. But the Steelers had just scored their first touchdown. They were trying to get a stop before the half and get it back. They had all 3 of their timeouts. It was about a minute and like 25 seconds left when Baker did that run, that scramble on 3rd down. If he doesn't pick up that first down, the Steelers are going to get the football back. They got plenty of time. They got momentum. They score there, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown, and they go into the halftime break down, 2 scores at 28-14 or down 18 at 28-10. They're feeling really good about themselves after the disastrous start. So Baker ends up scrambling, getting that first down. They go down, get the touchdown. It's 35-7. The Steelers would ultimately tack on the field goal before the half, but still, that was massive to me. And I know a lot of people won't talk about that, but I thought Baker Mayfield was outstanding tonight. He didn't turn it over. He didn't put the ball in harm's way. I thought he managed the game well. He made every big throw when it was necessary. He hung tough in the pocket. He scrambled when he needed to. I thought he did everything that is necessary for a quarterback to help his team win on the road against a tough opponent. I thought Baker Mayfield was outstanding, and this is just a carryover from the regular season. We've seen the growth and maturation from Baker Mayfield this season. You saw it in this game. I thought he was fantastic. To me, it was a collective effort. On defense, they essentially said, just don't give up big plays, and they still gave up some chunk plays, but they didn't give up the 75-yard bomb. They did have a couple possessions where it was too easy and it was bing, bang, boom, touchdown. But for the most part, just keep everything in front of you. Make them eat clock. Make them earn everything that they get. I thought they had some really good stands down in the red zone. The Steelers ultimately got in, but it took them time off the clock, and it took them, just everything that they needed to do, they did in this game. That was a collective effort from the Cleveland Browns, and what a win. What a win for the Browns. You waited this long to get in the postseason. Hadn't been in a postseason game since 2003. And, boy, did you make it count. If you go to the Steelers side of things, man, it's a ton of questions. And right now I'm not sure if there are enough answers, to be honest with you. You start 11-0. You really struggle down the stretch. You limp into the postseason. And it's nothing worse than letting the team into the postseason that's ultimately going to dispatch of you, that's going to dispose of you. Like, this is the equivalent as an assassin of going to a house to kill a man. Let's just say you're there to kill an entire family. And they got a little kid that's like 2, that's 1 year old. And you don't do kids. And so you wipe out the entire family, wife, husband, whomever, but you leave the kid because you don't do kids. And then 20 years later, that kid comes back and he smokes you. He takes you out for killing his parents. That's essentially what you allowed to happen by letting the Browns into the postseason by resting Ben Roethlisberger. You had a chance to avoid this whole entire scenario. And I talked about this. I understood what you did. Ben's 97 years old. He needed rest. I get it. However, you had a chance to make sure that one of your division rivals, one of your family members, weren't going to have the opportunity to come back and torment you. And you let that slip through your fingers. So, ultimately, you brought this on yourself. But you can't make the type of mistakes you made in this game. You can't have 5 turnovers and expect to win in a game. Ben can't throw 4 picks. You can't be snapping balls over his head. There was another snap on a 4th down where Ben had to go dig it up just to get it to James Conner, or else that would have been a failed 4th down conversion. So Pouncey struggled in this game with some snaps at times. And Roethlisberger, he just made a bunch of mistakes, man. I mean, and again, credit the Browns for being in the right place at the right time. Porter Gustin, with a diving stab after a batted ball in the air. You got a great interception. I think that one was by Sheldrick Redwine on a tip ball that was too high for Deontay Johnson over the middle of the football field. I thought the Sione Takitaki pick to seal it was outstanding. I mean, yeah, Ben threw it because he thought he could get it over. Ben saw him there. That's not. They tried to make it seem on the telecast like Ben didn't see him. No, Ben saw him. Ben just thought he could get it over him. And Sione Takitaki is about 6'3", and he's got some athleticism. And he leaped up and he snatched that thing out of the air, and that was all she wrote. So just a big game by this Browns football team. The Steelers just made far too many mistakes. Far too many mistakes. And you know what was the most disappointing part? Similar to the Washington game, you go into these types of games thinking, because you've played exceptional defense all year long and you've been able to lean on that side of the football, you're thinking to yourself, this is the game where my defense is going to step up. You know you got to stop Chubb and Hunt. And, you know, if you can shut those guys down similar to what the Ravens did to the Titans, you're going to really put Baker Mayfield in a compromising spot because they do so much off of the run with the play action fake game. And so you felt like I can lean on my defense and they're going to give us a chance. Even if the offense is struggling, the defense is going to give us a chance because that's what they've done all season long. And it was a role reversal. The offense was really what gave them a shot after all the turnovers, of course. But when the offense started to get it together, and it took a while, but when they finally got it clicking and they got this thing going and they needed stops, this defense didn't produce. They didn't produce. They had ample opportunities. This thing got to 35-23. You need a stop. Give me one more stop. And the Steelers actually had the football, so I take that back. They had an opportunity. 4th and 1. On 46. I get it. Gotta go for that. Hindsight is 20/20. With the way you felt like your defense was starting to play, and they were starting to play much better, you punt that thing, you pin them, and you're thinking to yourself, maybe we get a stop, we get great field position back, and we'll be able to do something. And that was the drive where the Browns hit the screen to Nick Chubb. And like I said, every time they needed to respond, they responded there. And then you get the touchdown to Claypool, and that was a quick one. That was the bing, bang, boom drive. So it's like, okay, that sucks. You give up the screen for the touchdown, but now it's 42-29. You got a shot. You're down 2 scores. You get a stop here. You got all 3 of your timeouts. That touchdown came with 11:08 left in the 4th quarter. All right, defense, get us a stop. You let the Browns put together a 7-minute drive that allowed them to eat up the clock and give it back and kick a field goal and give it back to you with 4:28 left. You needed your defense to step up. They couldn't do it. So, and you got to credit the Browns for that. The offense, Alex Van Pelt and company, for dialing up the right plays at the right time. The Steelers came with a blitz, throw it right out into the flats to Kareem Hunt, first down. You know, you want to play coverage? You want to sit back? Jarvis Landry time. You want to sit back in coverage again? Austin Hooper time. They had answers for everything the Steelers were doing. And again, all these offensive linemen that came in, and they were down to one of their last offensive linemen, a guy that just got there from Northwestern that they had never heard of, and people didn't even know his name. And Ham had to come in at right tackle because Jack Conklin, the all-pro, had to leave the game with a hamstring, and we didn't hear a peep out of TJ Watt in terms of getting to the quarterback. That's a testament to this Browns offense. They got it out of Baker Mayfield's hands quickly. They used the run game to keep him honest and neutralize him. They did a fantastic job, and that's why I said you got to give this Browns team credit. They went out and they took it to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They took the fight to the Steelers. They didn't wait for anything good to happen. They made things happen in this football game. So now these Browns are off to take on the the Kansas City Chiefs. Got a few super chats. I want to knock these out before we get to some comments on the show. And I just want to, at this time, take an opportunity to say welcome to the show. If you're brand new and you want your comments read, use the hashtag LouieTeeLive to have your comment read on the air if it is pertinent. I also want to ask you at this time to subscribe to the Louie T Network if you haven't already done so. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. We cover it all here, all 32 teams, and we cover the draft extensively. Don't believe me? Check the archives, all right? So, with that said, hit that like button too while you are at it. Got a super chat here from Big Blue Rising. Thank you for the super chat. Big Blue Rising writes, Steelers never should have let them in, Lou. You don't want family business in the playoffs. Those gray faces showed up. Hashtag Corvette. Absolutely. I mean, in Juju's defense, we talked about this on the podcast on, I believe it was Friday, that's one of those Mike Tomlin isms where he talks about the opponents all being gray faces and they're nameless, and you just go out, you treat every opponent the same, and you go out and execute. But that being said, it made headlines. It served its purpose. It got everybody riled up. Bottom line is, you shouldn't have let them in, and I already talked about that. You had a chance to take these boys out in week 17. I would have taken that opportunity to do exactly that. They did what they thought was best for their long-term prospects. So I understand that. I understood the premise. The long-term health of Ben Roethlisberger moving forward into the postseason is much more important than trying to make sure that the Browns don't get into the postseason, even if we have to play them again next week. My thing is, kill him while you got a chance to kill him. Kill him while you got a chance to kill him. Because if you don't, they may be the ones that come back and put the knife in your back. That's exactly what happened tonight. And so, looks like Juju will be dancing at home for the rest of the season. DMV Fan 123. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. DMV Fan 123 writes, Juju can TikTok dance himself back to the crib. And that's crazy because I just kind of brought that up. And what's interesting is he had a massive night tonight. He's a free agent. You know, what are the Steelers going to do? Obviously, he wants to be back in Pittsburgh. And I think it's a mutual feeling there. I think they want him back. I think he wants to be back. We'll see if they can come to some kind of agreement because, as you heard on the telecast, and my man Captain Spartan has been telling us for months now, they don't have a great cap situation in Pittsburgh. So they're going to have to figure some things out as far as how to make the numbers dance so that they can retain some of these guys. And until Ben's contract comes off the books, they're going to be strapped for cash. So it's going to be interesting to see what they decide to do with Juju Smith-Schuster. Got any grapes? Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Got any grapes writes, what up, fam? Gotta admit, I was queuing up the murder song in the first quarter, but the Steelers showed me why Tomlin was the only other coach Snyder wanted to change the culture. I knew this wasn't, and I tweeted this out. I was wrong about this. I was so close to being right. But I tweeted out at the end of the first quarter as we were heading to the second quarter. It was 28-0. I tweeted out. I said, I know this is a crazy thought, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think the Steelers are going to get within one score at some point in this game. It was 28-0. I had no reason to feel that way other than the fact that I've watched the Browns blow two massive leads this season and allow teams to get within one score in the Dallas game and in the Titans game. So I thought that the Steelers, who we know at times can be dynamic and explosive offensively, I thought that the Browns were going to play soft, and they did, and they were going to allow the Steelers to get into a rhythm, and they did, and I thought the Steelers were going to climb back into this thing. And really, for the most part, they did. We didn't feel like this game was over until that Sione Takitaki interception. It never felt quite over. Even when they were up 16 with 4 minutes left, I'm like, I still think that the Steelers are going to score a touchdown. I think they're going to convert the 2-point conversion this time, even though they were 0 of 2 in the game. So they're going to convert the 2-point conversion, and this thing's going to be a one-score game just like I predicted. I still felt that way until the pick was thrown to Sione Takitaki, and that's at that moment, that's when I realized this thing is over. So, yeah, no murder song. This thing didn't get out of control like you guys thought it was, but still a big win for the Browns. DMV Fan 123, thank you for doubling up. Double up. Greatly appreciate you, DMV Fan 123, who writes, Pitt lost to a team with no name and no coach. It's been a rough month and a half for the Steelers, man. They got exposed, though. You know, on that night in December against Washington, they were exposed. And from that point forward, they lost all the confidence. I think what was really holding them together, because remember, even when they were 9-0, when they barely beat Dallas and got to 9-0, and when they went 10-0 and then 11-0, nobody was really all that impressed with what the Steelers were doing. They just were undefeated. And so I think what was holding them together that entire time was that O in the right-hand column. Because there was a 0 there and they hadn't tasted defeat, they were so confident. You know, they just felt like we're going to find a way to win. And once Washington shattered that complex that they had of themselves, which is, hey, we can do this. We can find a way to win. Once Washington penetrated that confidence with that win and putting a crooked number in that right-hand column, it really, I thought, started to expose problems that were being masked by winning. And so you lose to Washington, you go on the road the next week, you lose to Buffalo, you follow that up with another loss to Cincinnati, which that was the one that really showed me they're in trouble. They've lost all confidence when they lost to Cincinnati. And they were able to somehow come back down 24-7 against the Indianapolis Colts. And I didn't think that they were going to lose this game. But I remember tweeting this out when they were down 24-7 that I didn't believe they belonged in the playoffs. They weren't. Somebody was going to miss out on the postseason because the Steelers had already clinched, even though they had lost their last 3 games, and it was looking like 4 at the time as they were down 24-7 against the Colts at home. They ultimately rallied and won that game 27-24. I thought that they looked like a team that didn't belong in the postseason. And tonight, they look like a team that didn't belong in the postseason in that first quarter. They looked like a team that belonged at home. And they made it interesting. They fought back. They showed a heart of a lion. But just really disappointed in the way they came out. You can't give up 28 in the first quarter. Can't give up 28. Back in the day, we call that a rule in Madden. The game's over. 21-0. That's a rule. Game's over. First quarter. Unbelievable. You give up 48 at the crib. Unreal. All right, so that's the last super chat. Now we can get to the comment section of this football game. 32J Locke says, Big Ben was the Browns MVP. I don't disagree with that. When you throw 4 interceptions, did you see him at the end of the game on the bench, kind of just staring off into la la land like, is this it? He's not retiring, I don't think. I don't think that's what that scene was. That was just, I can't believe I just lost at home in the playoffs to the Browns. You saw the record, 23-2-1 going into this game against the Browns. A 90% win percentage against the Browns. You saw it. So I think that was more about, I can't believe we just lost to the Browns. I can't believe I just threw 4 interceptions and we lost to the Browns. I really think that's what that was. I can't believe that he just threw 4 interceptions and they gave up 48 points and just lost to the Browns. You're not the only one that's shocked. Jonathan Hankey says, karma strikes again, Louie. LOL. I told you, karma's a sumbitch. And she don't miss. Craig Smith. Sitting here watching all these Browns 2018 draft picks flat out ball and still trying to figure out why and how the Steelers took Terrell Edmonds in the first round of that same class. How, Sway? I don't have an answer for you, man. I remember when they made the pick, I was like, look, one of these Edmonds is supposed to be a first round pick, but both of them? What? Hey, it is what it is, man. I can't. Atlas says, we've seen it all this year. The Steelers were the most fraudulent team in the league. I think that's the second year in a row that one of these really good teams was somewhat fraudulent, but made it to the postseason. This was way worse than what we saw last year with Green Bay, but I remember telling you guys over and over again, Green Bay is a house of cards. And we saw that house of cards collapse in the NFC Championship game, though. At least they made it to the NFC Championship game. This thing collapsed in Wildcard weekend. And maybe if the Packers would have been exposed to a 7-team playoff where they had to play in Wildcard weekend last year, instead of having a first-round bye like they did last year because the first 2 seeds got first-round byes last year, maybe they would have gotten knocked out of the playoffs last year. By a 7 seed. Who knows? But the Steelers definitely weren't what their record reflected. And we kind of figured that out after they lost their first game of the season. Really, we didn't know. You know, it wasn't until the Cincinnati game where I figured out, like, they're really lost. They're really lost. Like I said, got to take this Cincinnati game and use it as a get-right game. Get back on your horse and put yourself back in the right frame of mind. And when they squandered that opportunity, that's when I said, okay, They struggling. Lil_Gilly says, everything just went wrong from the start for the Steelers. It did. I mean, I was so amazed. Like, so I did the stream for the Bears-Saints game. By the time I had gotten off the stream, it was already 7-0. So I had to go back and see how the hell that happened, because as I got off the stream, it was only 14 minutes and 37 seconds left, and it's 7-0. I'm like, how in the hell did that happen? Did they run a kickoff back for a touchdown? Like, what are we doing right now? So I see that, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Then I see the interception. Now it's 14. I'm like, yo, that's crazy. Then you see, some miscommunications between some of the Steeler players, and then boom, it's another interception. You're like, what? It's 21-0. My girl comes down because she didn't know that I was done with my video. So she came downstairs and she looks at the score. She looks at the TV. She is expecting 0-0, maybe 7-0. She does one of these numbers. The hell? She had to do one of those double takes. It's like, what in the world? I said, yeah. Yeah. It's one of those. Nothing could go right. Drop passes, miscommunications, mix-ups, errant throws, interceptions. They get something going. It's a penalty. They just couldn't get out of their own way. Gregory Lightbody says, I better not see a Big Ben comeback player of the year vote. He might get some votes, but he's not going to beat Alex Smith out for that. Trust me. Rich says, Uncle Mo was sweating today. He was on the move. Steelers always disappoints. Cleveland is probably a madhouse right now. Uncle Mo didn't know if he was coming or if he was going. Yeah, he was sweating his ass off because at one point Uncle Mo looked like he wasn't going to get up off that Cleveland sideline. Then he did. Then he went back over there. Then he went back over to the Pittsburgh sideline, and then ultimately he settled in on Cleveland's side and said, "Hey man, this is as comfortable as I've been all night. I'm not getting up again." So Cleveland is definitely hype right now. I'm happy for him. When you go that long without making it to the postseason, and then the team that has tormented you the longest and the most during this dreadful stretch, you get to dispatch them and do it in the fashion that you did. You put up 48. Think about that. A big, fat, nasty with cheese 40 burger. Talking about 3 thick, juicy patties stacked on top. Fat American, if you out there, I'm sorry. Let me just wipe the juices off my chin from that 40 burger. Had to take a bite, man. If you're out there, Fat American, I apologize. But to put a 40 burger on these boys at day crib speaks volumes, man. Gotta feel good. Gotta feel good. DMV Sports Zone was good. It's good. Ali Side, this game is just like the Jacksonville game a couple years ago. Steelers always dig themselves a hole. Too many stupid mistakes. I thought about that same thing as I was watching it. But they never got as close. That was the analogy that I was going to make if they had gotten this thing to a one-score game, which they did against Jacksonville. They never got close enough for me to get that Jacksonville vibe. But yes, this is what it felt. It felt like that early. But even in that Jacksonville game, they were never down 28 points, I don't think, in that Jacksonville game. Jacksonville jumped them early, but I don't know if it ever got out of control like it did in this game. This game was wild. JP says, your boy Sean Mack probably celebrating right now. Congratulations to the Browns and their fans. P.S. Juju should staple his mouth shut for the rest of time. Again, I don't think he meant anything malicious by it, but again, it got out there. It was spun into a negative comment, and it is what it is. He's not going to get the benefit of the doubt because of the TikTok antics and the dancing on the logos to Corvette this season. So anything he said was going to be spun as a negative, and Juju being Juju, which is now all of a sudden a negative thing. He's just having fun. I like Juju Smith-Schuster, personally, myself. Lamar says Corvette. That's going to be the thing. When the Bengals beat them, you had running back Joe Mixon driving down the street, banging the Corvette in the whip, down the street. So that's the thing, and we see this all the time in the NFL. Like, I always bring up the Cam Newton thing. When Cam Newton was killing it in 2015, anytime somebody would play against him and, he was opening up the shirt for Superman. I remember one time they played against the 49ers. And it might not have been 2015 season. This is when the 49ers were actually good. So this might have been like 2013 or something like that, when they were a good football team and making it to the NFC Championship game and things of that nature. And they were playing the Panthers in the postseason. And Kaepernick runs for a touchdown. And he gets up, he opens it up, and then he closes it back up. That's what people do. They mock you when you do something and you're successful with it. They don't have originality, so they go and they mock you for doing your thing. So, Juju was going to catch flack for that. Had they been winning, people might have been mad, but they wouldn't have been able to say anything. But when you start losing, you get blown up on a Monday night and you fumble the ball, that's what's going to come your way. Rich says the Browns won a playoff game with a banged-up O-line, multiple missing coaches. What the F is going on, Lou? I need help understanding. It's family business, man. They know those boys. They know them like the back of their hand. And to make matters worse, the Steelers were in a very... And I said, hey, Pittsburgh, what y'all doing? It's not December. We're not in the season of giving anymore. You don't have to be generous anymore. And it was like, nah, man. Like, these are cousins, though, man. We rock with them. Like, we get down with them. We've been little broing them and sunning them for years, man. So we owe them one. Just one. We ain't trying to have this be a every year occurrence. But they due for one, man. So we going to go ahead and throw them a bone tonight. Fine. I thought last week allowing them to get in the postseason was a good enough gift. I didn't think you needed to continue to give the gift that keeps on giving, which is turnovers. But they gave out a bunch of them tonight. JP says, I was so damn close to singing the murder song, but Pittsburgh's rally kept that shit from happening. Yes, it did. I didn't think we were going to get to that. I really thought that they would come out. I thought they would be closer, honestly speaking. I thought this would end up being a nail biter in the Browns. I didn't think the Browns were ever going to lose. That's not what I tweeted out. I thought that the Steelers would get this thing to one score and have Browns fans on edge. Never got to that point, though. And that's a testament to the Browns in this game. Live Wire Red B says, Nick Chubb greater than Derrick Henry. As a pure running back, I would say I can't make that claim. Got to go with the 2,000-yard rusher there. But Nick Chubb, I'm telling you, if you're talking pure runners in the league, he's right behind Derrick Henry. I'd take him over Dalvin Cook, and because he just runs through arm tackles, and he can make you miss. He can juke you, he can stick his foot in the ground, give you a little something. But like Vince Williams on the screen, he tries to shoulder. He doesn't rap. He thinks he's good. I don't know if he thought he was playing against Cincinnati and Gio Bernard, or he was playing against somebody else. I don't know who the hell he thought he was playing against. But neither one of those bats are you going to bump down onto the ground. You ain't bumping down Kareem Hunt, and you damn sure not bumping down with a shoulder Nick Chubb. So why he didn't try to wrap up on that screen behooves me. But Chubb bounced off of him like he was a damn fly and kept it pushing. Jonathan Hankey says, not going to lie, I was waiting for the Browns to mess this up. But to their credit, they pursued through and won the game. I kept waiting for them to allow the Steelers to make this closer than it needed to be. But as I mentioned, they never, ever took their foot quite off the gas pedal. And they did defensively at times. But even on the possession where, the Steelers made the decision to not go for it, even the defense stepped up on that possession to force a 4th and 1, which forced the Steelers to have to make a decision. I felt like in the moment they should have gone for it, but I wasn't upset. I didn't feel the same way I felt against earlier in the day when the Titans decided to kick the football away on 4th and 2 from the Ravens 40. And again, in the moment when I was watching that game, and I told you guys that earlier, in the moment I didn't even think about it. Like, 4th and 2, you're kind of close, but at that point in the game, I think it was 17-10. You really didn't want to, go for it, and in my mind, and give the Ravens great field position. And the defense had been playing well. The Ravens hadn't scored any points in what seemed like an eternity. So I was like, I get it, at that point. But at the same time, I'm like, it's 4th and 2, man. So this was 4th and 1. You can't get 1 yard, and I get it. They don't run it well. So if they come out and they line up in gun and they try to spread you out, you're still not guaranteed to pick it up because you just don't run it all that well. So I can understand why they decided not to do it, but it's a tough decision not to do it, not to go for it on that 4th down. Gregory Lightbody says, this game reminds me of Washington and Tampa, in which Washington defense sucked. And I kind of, paralleled the two, because you go into the game thinking your defense is going to be what you lean on. If you're Pittsburgh, there's no way you think you're going to give up 48 points. Granted, a lot of the damage was done due to this offense. The snap directly led to 7 points and 4 interceptions. It's hard, but even those 4 INTs, they didn't have to turn into touchdowns. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Steelers defensively could have come onto the field and forced a field goal or a punt, and they didn't. It seemed like every time they turned it over, it turned into touchdowns. So that's on the defense at that point. Sudden change of possession doesn't mean got to give up a touchdown. And they did. So the defense just wasn't good enough tonight. Got a super chat. This one is from Jordan Jones. Thank you for the super chat. Jordan, greatly appreciate you, who writes, appreciate you breaking down how coaches view analytics. Wasn't something I truly understood, but seeing the situation in this postseason, it made sense. No doubt. I mean, I'm not an analytics guy. I don't like the way that it's applied a lot of times. To me, there's a place and a time for analytics, and then there's a place and a time for just having a feel for the game, having a pulse of what's going on in front of you, using your eyes and your experiences to be able to decipher whether this is a good decision or not. Analytics may say, you're supposed to go for this right now because 71% of the time when teams go for it in this situation, you convert. And if you get it, you got a 72% chance of winning this game. That sounds good, and that's great. But you're telling me that 7 out of 10 teams have gotten this, but what about the 3 teams that didn't? And also, I'm watching this game with my own 2 eyes. I'm coaching this game, and it's 4th and 1, and we've been stopped on 3rd and 1 3 times in this game, so there's context to that. And I don't really feel good about the offense in these short yardage situations right now. So I'm not going for this. I like the way my defense is playing. We've forced 3 straight 3-and-outs. I'm going to punt the football. So there's a time to use analytics, and then there's a time for you to say, you know what? I got a pulse of the game and my team, and my gut tells me I should punt this football away. And as long as you go with your gut, whether it works or it doesn't, you can sleep at night. But, when you go with analytics, and you don't believe it, but just because that's what the numbers say you do it, to me that's a bad reason to do anything. So I think some of these coaches, like Indianapolis's coach, Frank Wright, the Eagles coach, Doug Peterson, some of these coaches are taking analytics. John Harbaugh is another one, to me, way too far. You're overdoing it with the analytics. I think Matt Rule is another analytics guy. I think we're going to see that over the life of his career. He's actually really smart with it, but I think he's another analytics-based guy too. So we'll see what happens with the analytics. It's really becoming a much bigger part of the game than I ever thought it would, to be honest with you. Let's see. The Soundwave 92 says, don't know if you saw Big Ben and Pouncey sitting on the bench at the end of the game. Think this is it for both of them. I talked about that already. I didn't see Pouncey on the bench, but I saw Big Ben kind of just with his helmet still on, strapped all the way up. You know what I mean? Like just staring off into space like, damn. Was this it? I don't think he's retiring though. I think that was more of a I can't believe it's over this year. We were 11-0 and our season's over in Wildcard weekend. I think that was more about what that staring into space on the bench with your helmet still on, fully strapped up was about. Like, wow. I thought that week off, I felt good. I really felt like we could do some damage. This felt like a season that could really end in something big. And just like that, it's over. Reese says, these Steelers are frat boys. That's all they are. They talk about fake tough guys. He said, talk about fake tough guys. It's crazy. When we had that fake tough guy conversation on the podcast 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, I think it was 2 weeks ago, never would have thought the Steelers. Remember, I think I mentioned them briefly, but I was like, they're not fake tough guys. They'll get their act together. And I think that was on the precipice of that Cincinnati game. It was like right before that Cincinnati game. So I was assuming that they were going to beat the brakes off of Cincinnati, take that momentum into the Indianapolis game, beat them, and then they could do whatever they wanted in Week 17 versus Cleveland, rest their starters, whatever. If they had something to play for, like the number 1 seed, then they could have been going after that at the time. But nah, that's not what happened. They turned out to be fake tough guys themselves. Reese says, Big Ben looks and plays like he just ate an entire Thanksgiving dinner, but the kids talked him into going out to throw a few passes. That is so true. How he moves now is like he moves like somebody's great uncle. I'm like, dude, is that the fastest you can move? Seriously. It looks like it hurts to move when he's in the pocket and he's trying to step up and avoid someone. I'm like, is that truly the fastest you can go? It does look like he's overstuffed. And they somehow talked him to go out. Come on, Uncle Pete. Come on. Just a couple of passes. All right, come on. It's crazy, man. That's funny. Anyway, that was a good one, Ree. Sean Mack says, Browns had our water boy playing offensive guard and our 4th and 5th string corners. Ward, Williams, and Johnson out. Hashtag tears of joy. Hashtag is this real? And you know what was the funny thing is all year long, my man Sean Mack was waiting for the other shoe to drop. We were in the winners and losers pool together, the league, and every week I would look and he would never pick his Browns. When they were playing somebody remotely tough, he'd pick the other team, and I'm like, he still doesn't believe in his team, huh? Even Week 17, when the Steelers had nothing to play for, he picked the Steelers to win that game. He just couldn't believe, and I get it. As a Washington fan, I get it when you've been preconditioned to think that your team is going to F it up. Because they always do. So in your mind, you're like, this isn't happening. Something's going to go wrong because something always goes wrong. And that just wasn't the case this year. It was different with Kevin Stefanski. And so I'm happy for my man Sean Mack. Celebrate! Your boys are going to the divisional round of the postseason. Not going to be easy. You're going to Kansas City, but if the Chiefs have ever looked beatable, it's right now. Reese says, Bucks versus Saints round 3. If we play defense like we did yesterday, they're going to drop 50. This team scares the shit out of me. I think we're a better team than the last time we played them, though. I agree. I talked about that earlier in the Saints-Bears breakdown, that you're not going to see a repeat of the massacre that was Sunday Night Football. I think that thing ended up, 34-3? I believe it ended up being. You're not going to see a repeat of that. This team is much better than they showed that night. I think they've learned a lot more about themselves. They're a much healthier ball club. That was Antonio Brown's, second game in Tampa Bay. he's much more advanced in this offense now, much more comfortable, much more of a factor. You're going to give them a much better fight, and you may win that football game just depending on what Saints team shows up, because I wasn't impressed with them offensively in the game today against the Bears, but that's a good Bears defense too, just to reiterate. Got a comment here from Reese says, do you think we have a shot versus the Saints? They embarrassed us the last time. Yeah, no. You definitely have a shot. He said, they're like the school bully. We're the twerp with lunch money. Not this time. It won't be that way this time. You may not beat them, but I'm going to tell you this. It's hard to beat a team 3 times in one season. It really is. It really is. Brandon Brantley, thank you for the comment, who writes, do you think these last couple of months of Juju's shenanigans and the Browns' comments will have an impact on him re-signing with Pittsburgh? Even Steelers fans are tired of it. No, I don't. But this is the thing you have to understand is when you're winning, everything is great. When you're losing, then you have a microscope on you, and everything starts to come to the forefront. Juju Smith-Schuster is a really good football player, and I think they respect what he does for that organization. And again, if they could come to some kind of middle ground on what's a good contract for him and what he's comfortable in accepting, because there's going to be a lot of money out here for him to get. It's a lot of receivers that are going to be out on the market, and I think you're going to see out of all the positions this offseason, I don't think you're going to see one get more money than the wide receiver position, because there are so many guys that are going to be available that are young going into the prime of their career. And Juju Smith-Schuster is one of them. He's 24. He's literally going into the prime of his career. Corey Davis is 26. He's going into the prime of his career. And there are going to be several other guys. Allen Robinson's not going into the prime of his career, but he's 28. Still got good football left in front of him. There's a lot of good receivers. Will Fuller is probably like 25. He's going into the prime of his career. There are going to be a bunch of guys that are going to command top dollar in free agency at the receiver position. And I think Juju Smith-Schuster is one of those guys. Reese says, Mike Tomlin could wind up like Tony Dungy. Dungy got us to the playoffs, but not to the big one. I think Tomlin could end up the same way if he does this again next year. Remember, he's already won a Super Bowl, though, unlike Dungy in Tampa, who didn't get his Super Bowl till he went to Indianapolis. Tomlin's won a Super Bowl. He's been to 2 of them. And if not for Rashad Mendenhall's fumble against the Packers, he would have won 2 Super Bowls. So there's a little bit of a difference there, but it's funny that you bring up Tony Dungy and Mike Tomlin in the same sentence. Remember, Mike Tomlin came from the Tony Dungy tree. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Tomlin, because these types of seasons like this, 11-0 to then 12-4 to then out in the first round, these start to stack up. And, there was this, last year, Ben got hurt. They go 8-8. I thought it was his best coaching job, to be honest with you. But even going into that season, there were starting to be rumblings and grumblings about Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. There were rumors. And so, I still don't think he's going anywhere. They won 12 games this year, but, when you go 11-0 and your season ends abruptly like this, it's rough. It's a bitter pill to swallow. But we've seen the Saints do it. How many games did the Saints win last year? 12, 13, what was it? And they lose to the Minnesota Vikings in the first round in the Wildcard weekend. So it's not unprecedented to see a team win a bunch of games and then get bounced in the Wildcard weekend. But this one stings, because if you're the Steelers, how big of a window is this really with Ben Roethlisberger? How much time does he really have left? Because honestly, once Roethlisberger retires, I don't know what they're going to do with the quarterback position. So you got to take advantage of this window of opportunity, and you just lost another year. Ben's not getting any younger, as we've already talked about. Got another super chat. This one is from Edic Dulac. Thank you for the super chat, Edic Dulac, who writes, happy for the Browns, but what do you think Browns' plan would have to be to beat the Chiefs? To me, it's really what they've been this season. Like this game, because of all the points and then them having to protect a big lead, it turned into a shootout of sorts. But that's not who they want to be. The game that they need to play in order to beat the Chiefs needs to look a lot like the game they played against the Giants on a Sunday night. What was that, 20-6? I think that score was. Obviously, the Chiefs aren't going to score 6 points. But what they did in that game was they're like, look, we don't want to play around with the Giants. They're a scrappy bunch. They're not good on offense, but we're not here to play any games with them. We don't want to prolong this game. We're the better team. Let's just shorten this thing and get out of here. So they ran the football. They scored when they got opportunities to, and they got out of there with a win. That's what you're looking to do against the Chiefs. The blueprint is what the Falcons did at the end of the season. You don't want to get into a shootout with them, even though you've shown this season that you're fully capable of scoring 40 points, which if you're going to get into a shootout with the Chiefs, that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to score 40 plus. You've done it multiple times this year. You did it in this game. You did it against Tennessee. You did it against Dallas. So you've shown the ability to score 40 points. However, that's not what you want to do. You want to do what the Falcons almost did. You want to do what the Chargers almost did. Shorten the game, run the football, limit the amount of points the Chiefs score, and see if you can't eke out a 20-17, a 24-20, a 23-20 victory. That's what you're looking to do. You don't want to get into the shootout with the Chiefs. So to me, that's what, a game plan going into a game against the Chiefs looks like, because they've shown vulnerability this year to a low-scoring game and a team that wants to take the air out of the football. They've shown the ability to not just be on tilt offensively where, hey, you can try to slow the game down all you want, but when they get it, they're going to race down the field and score anyway. So good luck with that. Like, the Titans tried to do that last year in the playoffs to no avail. That score was 17-7 midway through the second quarter, and they were doing everything they wanted to do. They were running the football with King Henry, and they were taking the air out of the football, and the clock was running, and they were up 10, and they were playing confident ball. And then, just like that, you looked up, and it was like 34-17. And you was like, well, that was fun while it lasted. That's not who they've been this season. That doesn't mean they can't get back to that. But we've seen them struggle this season in some close ball games that were a lot lower scoring than you would expect from this Chiefs football team. So what I'm telling you is you can play defense and run the football and have a chance. You don't want to get into the shootout with them, because I haven't seen many teams be successful in that gunfight with the Chiefs. You just don't want to get into a shootout with them. Their guns are a lot bigger, with a lot more ammo, and they fire a lot faster. A lot of teams play the Chiefs and they go, hey, we got guns and shit. They say, hey, so do we, and ours are better than yours. Trust me. I haven't seen many teams that have had better ammunition and weaponry than the Chiefs, so you don't want to get into one of those fights. We're approaching that hour mark, so I'll take a couple more comments, and then we'll move. We'll get out of here. Let's see. Gregory Lightbody says, Washington at least looked like they belong in the playoffs. Can't say the same for the Steelers. Yeah, they struggled for a little bit there. They did, but they fought. At least they made this thing competitive. HHC Lunar says that was years of repressed rage and from the Browns in one quarter. It felt like it. It was funny because that was a lot of the comments on Twitter. Like, this is years of getting little broed and sunned by these Steelers. And because when I made the comment that the Steelers were going to come back and make it a one-score game at some point, somebody was like, no, they're not. They had this coming for years. So, this felt like the Browns really just all this bottled up emotion. They were looking to discharge all of it at once. And they did. 28 points in one quarter. Most points scored in one quarter by a playoff team in NFL, in the first quarter, I should say, in NFL history. You just don't see it very often. JP says, Ben had tears in his eyes knowing that he might have lost his last shot at a third Lombardi. You know, I don't know if they were going to win the game. I mean, the Super Bowl this year. I still don't think they were better than, you know, Buffalo or Kansas City. They were going to have to go through both of them more likely than not to get to Tampa to try to win a Super Bowl. I don't think they were good enough, but you didn't even give yourself a chance by not getting out of Wildcard weekend. So that hurts. Reese says, turning the ball over is the fastest way to lose. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. HHC Lunar says, Ben has entered the Eli Manning stage. Which is? I need clarification on that. HHC Lunar also says, Steelers are the worst 11-0 team ever. That may be true. I can't tell you who all made it to 11-0 in NFL history, but 11-0 didn't seem like a team that had a chance to go 16-0 and, you know, run the table. They didn't seem like a team that really would threaten the 72 Dolphins. I can say that much. Queese127 says, did you see Baker run into the locker room yelling, Browns is the Browns? No, I didn't see that. I missed that one. Jada says, Claypool had a great game. I'm telling you, even though they lost, Claypool will blow up. This is only his rookie season, and he is this good. He will only get better. That is a factual statement. I concur with that 1,000%. Chase Claypool was a lot better. Obviously, if teams would have known he was going to be this good, they would have drafted him in the first round. There was this talk about him potentially moving to tight end because of his weight. And he told anybody that would listen, no, I'm a wide receiver. That was water weight gain. And he got in the league, and he tore it up this year, man. And I'm happy for him because I'm a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan. And so Chase Claypool's future is very, very bright. Let's see. That's it. That's the last comment, pretty much. So, big win for the Cleveland Browns, man. I'm going to be brutally honest. I didn't see this one coming. I went 4-2 this weekend with my picks. And you know what's funny? Is the NFC bracket and the AFC bracket look exactly the same. The same seeds won on both sides. You had a 5 seed beat a 4 seed on both sides. So Baltimore went to Tennessee and beat the Titans. They were the 5 seed to advance. On the NFC side, Tampa Bay went to Washington and beat the 4-seeded Washington football team, so they advanced. The 6th seed in the NFC, the Los Angeles Rams, defeated the 3rd-seeded Los Angeles Rams, Seattle Seahawks. That was family business. On the other side, the 6th-seeded Cleveland Browns defeated the 3rd-seeded Pittsburgh Steelers, and that was family business. So both brackets mirror each other. Family business, 3-6 matchup. Family business, 3-6 matchup. 6th seed goes on the road and handles that family business to win the season series. Both of those season series were knotted up at 1. And then the 6th seed goes on the road and ultimately wins that series 2-1 and advances. You go with the 5 seeds going on the road in both conferences and taking care of the 4 seed that won their respective divisions in Tennessee and Washington as Baltimore and Tampa advances. And then you get your 2 seeds in both conferences to advance. And you also get that was it. You get your 2 seed to advance. And now the 1 seed is going to jump in. And you're going to get 1 against 6 on both sides. And you're going to get 2 against 5 on each side. So I think that's beautiful and perfect symmetry as we complete our first super wild card weekend with 6 matchups, 3 on each of the first 2 days. Can't speak for you guys out there, but I thoroughly enjoyed both days. Felt like, for the most part, both days produced 2 really good games on each day. You could argue that Saturday was, it's not an argument. Saturday was much better in terms of entertainment value. I thought the Steelers made it interesting. They didn't go away, but you never really thought they were going to win the game. I never did, at least. I can't speak for you. I never thought they were going to win the game. I know Browns fans were probably never comfortable until until they got that onside kick. They probably were never comfortable. But there you have it. 1-6 matchup in the NFC, 1-6 matchup in the AFC, 2-5 matchup in the NFC, 2-5 matchup in the AFC. And then there were 8 teams remaining after 14 began. And so you'll have Green Bay Rams to kick off the divisional round weekend on Saturday afternoon, 4:35 p.m. You'll cap that one off with, I believe, they're going with the Chiefs game that night, I think. I could be wrong, and the Chiefs could be the kickoff game on Saturday afternoon. I know they're saving the best for last. Saints and Bucks is the night game. They might be the night game on Saturday night. I don't know. Don't get me the line. Bottom line is Rams, Packers, Saints, Bucks on the NFC bracket. Meanwhile, in the AFC, it's Chiefs, Browns, and Ravens, Bills. Should be a fantastic divisional round weekend. Can't wait to start talking about those games. So that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. Can't thank you guys enough for really gutting it out with me all weekend long. I've been live all day today. I was live all day yesterday, and you guys have been with me pretty much every step of the way. So I thank you guys for your support. Look forward to chopping it up with you guys in the near future. Got a quick update. No podcast tomorrow or today, as it is past midnight here on the East Coast. I will be back with the podcast on Tuesday and Thursday this week. So 2 podcasts this week, not 3. 2 this week. I'm going to start transitioning into my college football film breakdown. So I need to get all my ducks in a row. I'm going to do that tomorrow. So I'm going to take that whole day to start focusing my attention on that and shifting gears a bit now that Washington season is over. I'll have a lot more free time on my hands. So now I need to start getting my affairs in order for the draft. But we will have a podcast on Tuesday to break down all of the carnage from Wildcard weekend. And we'll start turning our attention to the divisional round. We'll also start to take a look at some of these vacancies that are being filled. We'll also start to fill in some more of the blanks with the Deshaun Watson situation as we got more information now, and see if this thing could actually become a reality. We heard for the first time of a scenario being thrown out there from Deshaun Watson's camp, even though he's on vacation. So we'll talk about all of those things and more on the podcast on Tuesday. If you're not already subscribed to the Louie T Network, please do so. If you're not a member of this channel and this brand, what are you waiting on? Subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also make sure that you hit the like button on the way out of this video and show your support. And if you are a listener of the Louie T Network podcast on Stitcher, Google Music Play, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, wherever you get a podcast, you can get the Louie T Network. If you're not watching it here on YouTube, make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, all right? And rate it too. I really do appreciate you guys. Got to start reminding you to do that. Most of you are consuming it here on YouTube, but for those of you who aren't, I know a lot of you still listen to it while you're at the gym or at work or whatever the case may be. Please make sure you're rating and reviewing the podcast. That helps me tremendously. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and glide to the side, allow you to enjoy the rest of your evening. Browns. What more can I say? 48 points on the skulls of the Pittsburgh Steelers. A 40 burger, a big, nice, juicy 3-patty 40 burger. I bet it never tasted so good if you're a Browns fan. 48-37. Getting rid of the Pittsburgh Steelers in Wildcard weekend in Pittsburgh at Heinz Field. Doesn't get much better than that. If you're a Browns fan, congratulations. Now, your reward, the Kansas City Chiefs on the road. Good luck. You're going to need it. Anyway, big win for the Browns. Disappointing finish to the season for the Steelers. Again, a lot of questions. What does this mean for Big Ben? You know, Juju Smith-Schuster's a free agent. You know, what happens with the nucleus of this football team? Bud Dupree was on a franchise tag. What do they do with him coming off of an injury? So many questions. Not a lot of answers right now. Was this the last hurrah for the Pittsburgh Steelers? We're going to find out because, as you can see, the Browns look like they're here to stay. The Ravens aren't going anywhere anytime soon. At some point, Cincinnati's going to become a factor in this mix as well with Joe Burrow and company. The Steelers might have just pissed away their best opportunity at another trip to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. In any event, I'm out of here. You guys have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your night. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Have a good one.